Hi there, Thomas Collins here from AuditSnap. And this video, we are going to focus on a particular type of inspection that is a snag list inspection or a punch list inspection that we can perform using AuditSnap. Now, there's two workflows we can use. This video is going to focus on an ad hoc or an unstructured inspection. That is one without a template. The next video you might want to see is one where we do a snag list, this time using a template that we can build on AuditSnap. So let's get started. I'm going to open AuditSnap here on the desktop. Of course, if it was on your smartphone, it might look something like this aspect ratio. But for this demonstration, we're going to use the desktop full view version. So I'm just going to open that up. And to start a new inspection, it's very simple. Hit start new inspection, and we will give it a name. We would call it something like snag list 103, for example. And then we have an option to start with a template or without a template. This time we're going to choose without a template. In this case, we then have to choose the inspection type. So we're going to choose snag list, punch list. We can give it a location, we can give it a client, we can put it in a project, or give it a whole load of other details if we so wish. I've started cooking one earlier, so let's use that because we've got some pre-populated content in there and we'll see what that looks like. So here's Snag 101. Bear in mind there's no template here, so you're not seeing that kind of structure that we've applied. If we were in the template version, watch the next video for that. You'll see here we've added some findings already. So let's go and see how quickly we can add a new finding. So just add finding. And imagine you're walking through the property and you take a photograph. In this case, we're going to take a picture from our gallery. And there's one here with a door handle that has obviously been installed incorrectly. So we can take a closer look at that if we wish. We can take multiple photographs. We can add a caption. We can annotate if we wish as well. So that's something we can do right here live on the platform. And so once we're happy with the evidence we've captured, we'll also record a description. So door handle on sliding door leading to rear patio installed incorrectly. So that will transcribe in real time and we can drop that into our space here. And we can edit that manually as well if we so wish, if it doesn't capture enough detail, or we can also add another voice clip. And when we add another voice clip, it appends to the detail we've already added. It doesn't replace it. So there's our description there. It's obviously added a title here. If you're unhappy with the detail and the title, you can manually edit that too. We can then give our finding a severity, so that let's call it medium. We can give it additional details, and this is where it's important for the unstructured inspection, because this is how we structure it in terms of location. And for a snag inspection, you're going to want your report to be ordered and grouped in terms of the location of your snags. So here we've got some options that it will have remembered from previous inspections, but let's call this living room so that we have a new location tag chosen. We can then choose a different tag here in terms of the type of work that needs to be done, and this is a door, so let's choose door. The standards and guidance is something we can also use, and that would only be if you wanted to reference appropriate building standards, let's say in this case, or safety standards also, and only if you want them to appear in the report. So this button here will allow you, the system, to suggest what the appropriate building standards or safety standards might be in this case. But for snag list, typically that wouldn't be required. We also have an option to add an action directly from here and assign that action to either someone on our team or to someone externally, and give that a priority and a due date. But from what we've heard from our own snag listers is that typically they don't use actions on AuditSnap because every snag is an action. Every snag is already an action, and so simply by identifying what the snags are, they're already identified as actions. So it's kind of duplication of effort there. So we've got our finding here. We're going to save that finding and see how that influences the rest of the report. So in here now we've got 6 findings. We've got one on an external patio, we've got another one on an external patio, we've got 3 in the kitchen it looks like, and we've got 1 in the living room. So let's go and see how our report looks like. We've got 0 actions, which is fine. We've got review and polish here, which is where we put the final tweaks to our report. And because we have added to our report a new finding, we're going to need to regenerate the previously generated content. Now, because this is a snag list, you might need all of this content. And we're going to talk a little bit about the export options in a minute, but you still need to update the report to make sure all of the content that you've created, and certainly the findings, which are all snags in this case, are identified. So if you're happy with the polishing of the report and the content of the report, then you can go and continue on to the export tab here. And here is where we decide the content of our report, what is to be included or excluded, what the sequence findings are in your report, and how they're grouped together. And typically for a snag list, we'll want to have this in a compact style. And that's because typically for a snag list, you're handing this report to a contractor or a builder who's going to resolve the snags. However, if you are choosing this for a different audience and you want a more professional finish to your report, you can choose a professional style or the standard style here, where it has a lot more content, including the executive summary, the conclusion, and some more kind of detail and more fleshed out detail in your report. But let's go ahead and export the compact first and decide what's going to stay in. So we don't need a cover page on our compact report. And essentially, we don't need all of this extra detail. We're just looking for those findings or those snags. So that's it. If we download our PDF, it will then compile those findings, group those findings by location, which is very important for a snag list, because you want the person who's going to resolve those snags to find those really efficiently. So we're going to open our file here. This is what it looks like. We have got the title of the inspection was Snag 101 Node Template. You can see here we've got a rear patio. We've got 2 findings here, photographs grouped together, as you can see. Here we've got the kitchen, we've got 3 different snags that are grouped together, and here we've got the living room, which is the one we just created, and the detail that we provided as well. So that is how we very quickly put together a compact report in the ad hoc, unstructured workflow on AuditSnap. Stay tuned for the next video, and you'll see how we put together a snag list in a templated workflow structure that also may be very useful to you. Take care.